Hi, I'm Mitchell, and this is Stories Structured. For the past 13 years, I've only had one tradition that I never broke. Every year on my birthday, which happens to fall about 2 weeks before Christmas, I watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life. But this year, on my 32nd birthday, I broke that tradition. My wife and my friend, who had partaken in this tradition with me over the past several years, were both surprised when I told them we wouldn't be watching my favorite movie. I told them that this year we'd be watching a totally different movie. The movie About Time. They both questioned why I was breaking the only real tradition I loved, and I had to explain that It's a Wonderful Life was still my favorite movie, and I cared deeply about the tradition, but I didn't feel like it was breaking the tradition, per se, because these two movies were comparable in my mind. And it wasn't just that these movies have a protagonist that can travel back in time and see how the world would have been if they changed a few things. It was something more than that. See, I'm not just a sucker for a good time travel movie. You wouldn't catch me watching Avengers Endgame or Edge of Tomorrow on my birthday. And that's because About Time and It's a Wonderful Life are time travel movies, but they utilize the genre in a way that shows the viewer something beautiful about time and life that I need reminding of once a year. Let me explain. When time travel is introduced into a story, you can expect the characters to utilize it to fix any mistakes they made the first time. For example, in Groundhog Day, Phil avoids the mistake he made on the first day. And in Edge of Tomorrow, Bill Cage learns from his mistakes and each day gets a little closer to his goal. Or in About Time, our protagonist, whose name is Tim, has the power to go back in time and he utilizes it for his main goal of getting a girlfriend. What time travel movies do well is allow us to live vicariously through a character who can be extremely rational. We get to see them make the right decisions and practically live a perfect life. Any goal they want is achievable as long as they have enough perseverance and ingenuity. In the philosophical sense, time travel movies tend to begin as a classical philosopher's ideal story. These stories are all about valuing logic and systems to achieve their goals. Protagonists are able to determine the best course because they can experience all the options and end with the best option. Protagonists may utilize their feelings their first go-round, but that tends to fail them. So when they revisit the scenario again, they come into the situation with a well thought out plan. In that sense, time travel movies tend to focus less on feelings and instead focus more on searching for the ideal path towards a goal. And I love seeing this because that's how I tend to think. I wish I could change my shortcomings and I wish I could go back and fine-tune my mediocre results. But films like About Time and It's a Wonderful Life don't just stop there. They change in the final act. And for good reason. See, while it's fun to live through a protagonist with magical powers, there isn't really anything you can take away as you don't have the same power. So what do these films do? They focus on a more relatable idea. The idea that even if you could change the past, would it really make the difference you desire? If you got all the money, all the results you hope for, would that actually make you happy? Because odds are, things are pretty decent, or at least you've had some decent times in your life, and maybe you didn't even appreciate them the first time. We see in the end of these two movies that I'm comparing that the problem was never the shortcomings. The root of the problem that needed to be solved was neglecting to value the richness and greatness of life when it came along. I so often focus on the work and improving, which are great things, but what's the point of getting better and better and moving on to the next thing if you're never going to enjoy any of it? I know I sometimes fall into the trap of constant rational thinking that I often forget to enjoy the things in my life that I'm going through. Instead of concluding with an achievement of a goal like the classical philosophers might focus on, About Time and It's a Wonderful Life end on a more romantic philosophy, one that asks our characters to consider loving life. And I love how these movies go in that direction because it's a very tangible and relatable takeaway for the viewer. Because the fantasy of being able to go back in time and fix everything is enjoyable to watch and it hooks me in, but it doesn't provide much substance to leave you with as you don't have that power. But what they do have the power to do is to remind you to enjoy life, to celebrate the moments of success and joy.
You see, George, you really had a wonderful life.
The film's third acts of both of these two movies show us that their protagonists have achieved many great things. Tim has a wife and children, completing his goal of really wanting to get a girlfriend and find love, and George has made an impact on the world and is valued by his community. Yet neither of them are fully satisfied because they both always have lingering goals they want to achieve. They want to continue perfecting everything towards their ideal vision. George in It's a Wonderful Life still wants to travel and see the whole world, and Tim wants to save his sister from a bad relationship. And isn't that relatable to all of us? Isn't there always something more we can aim for? And the truth is, there will always be something more. So what do these films do? Instead of focusing on achieving the perfect situation, they ask us to take time to appreciate what we do have.
Get me back! I don't care what happens to me! Get me back to my wife and kids! Help me, Clarence, please! Please! I want to live again!
The truth is, I now don't travel back at all, not even for the day. I just try to live every day as if I've deliberately come back to this one day, to enjoy it as if it was the full final day of my extraordinary, ordinary life.
We need to remember that while aiming high is good and we should have dreams and try to fix the issues in our lives, life isn't about perfection. We will often fall short of our expectations, but we shouldn't be afraid to enjoy life even if it isn't exactly what you want. Because this is life. It won't be perfect, but it's the life you have. Life isn't just about achieving goals like becoming really rich. It's about living a fulfilling life and loving those closest to you.
To my big brother George, the richest man in town.
So in conclusion, I may have broken my tradition of watching It's a Wonderful Life this year, but in a sense, I feel like I didn't really lose a tradition. It wasn't about watching a specific movie, it was about watching a movie that reminded me to take a step back and enjoy and love life. And I did that this year by watching About Time. So for me, it wasn't as much of a change or a deviation, I just needed to come up with a new name for my tradition. And maybe in the future I'll just say, I watch movies about time and life on my birthday. Alright, if you guys have any movies you think fit this category, please let me know in the comments. If you'd like to support this channel, please give it a like, subscribe, and maybe even check out my book, The Fall of Man. Thanks for stopping by.